All right. How's it going, everyone? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Got a bunch of people in here already. If you are here for the unveiling of the 2025 maintenance report, key trends and insights, you're here at the right place. It just turned 11 o'clock here on the West Coast. We're going to give people a little bit more time to jump in. But yeah, up here on stage, on this virtual stage with three of the very best in the industry. How you guys all doing? What's going on?
I see Ahmed's in there. Greg Christensen. Oh, there's Bob Latino. Wow, he's in the chat and on the TV.
All right.
I'm pretty versatile. Okay.
we have our lovely Amissa in the chat. She's going to be holding it down.
All right. Yeah. I see some usual faces, some new ones as well, some new names. But Stephen, Jan, Cedric, San, Alfred, Jerome,
Jim Van Tighem, my man.
All right. Thanks for joining. All right. Very cool. We got Josh here. We got Jeff, Shane, Christian, Ramesh. All right. What a great crew. All right, we have a rule here at Upkeep. We always start 1 minute past, so it's 11:01. We are just about to jump into the day. Again, I kind of mentioned if you're just joining us, this is the kickoff. We are going to be unveiling the 2025 maintenance report, key trends and insights. We spoke to hundreds of people, spent hundreds of hours compiling this report, put it into an incredible report for you all. But today, got three of the very best in the industry. We're going to discuss some of the key trends and summarize what we heard and what we found. What's going on here in 2025 for the maintenance reliability industry. All right, here's just some housekeeping things, some housekeeping items. If you've got questions, we have a little bit of time at the very, very end to try to answer as many questions as you all have. Just type the questions into our questions feature. If you've got questions, you've got comments, you can also use our chat feature as well. We try to keep these things very, very interactive. So maybe just try out the chat right now. Let us know where you're joining us from. Drop it into the chat. We've got people from Kentucky, Bellingham. We got folks from Tucson, Arizona, Running Springs, California, not too far from where I am here in
Maryland.
All right, we got a Maryland, Brian, next door neighbor.
That's right.
Charleston, we got Truckee. All right.
Okay. Jim Van Tighem said 51st state, Canada.
Oh gosh! All right, we're going there already.
There's always a lot of Texas boys in this in on these webinars.
All right, we got an outer space, Mexico, Utah. All right, the chat's working. Again, if you all have questions, type it into our questions feature. We got a little bit of time again at the very, very end to see if we can get through as many questions as we can. I haven't introduced myself. My name is Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder here at Upkeep. But I am probably the least interesting person here on this virtual stage. We've got three of the very, very best in the industry. We've got Brian Bieschke, who is our community and partnerships manager here at Upkeep. We've got JD Solomon, the founder of his own consulting firm, JD Solomon Solutions, and Bob Latino, the master. All right, there we go. The asset operations master, pulling off his hat.
Full gear.
In full Upkeep gear. All right. Well, I've got three of the very, very best in the industry. Why don't I pass it off to each one of you guys, quickly introduce who you are, and then we'll get into the report findings. Brian, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Thank you, Ryan. So, guys, a lot of you have been on here before. I'm Brian. I'm the competing partnerships manager here at Upkeep, but I spent the better part of 20 years from heavy equipment mechanic to director of maintenance and reliability to head of maintenance for several locations around the country. I just love maintenance education and chilling with all my boys. So go ahead, JD.
JD Solomon, 30 plus years, maintenance, constructability operations, do JD Solomon Solutions, and also have a little side thing that some of you guys helped me with called Communicating with Finesse, trying to make us all better communicators at what we do. So senior management knows what we want, what we need.
All right. Bob.
I think my claim to fame is just I'm the son of a reliability pioneer from 1972. Started the first reliability engineering global R&D department in a major corporation. Retired in '85. Bought his group out of the corporation in 1985, and we formed our own company, a family-owned company, for 37 years. Specializing in equipment, process, and human reliability. And my forte as an expert is in root cause analysis. Go.
All right. The godfather of RCA. There we go. All right. As I mentioned, again, I'm probably the least interesting person here up on the stage. I'm joined by three of the very, very best. So here's what we're going to do for today. Our agenda. We're going to go quickly over report demographics. I'll summarize key trends, and then we're going to do a deep dive. At the end of each one of our key deep dives, we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to pick the minds of the very, very best, Bob, Brian, and JD, to hear a little bit more about what's going on. And then I hope by the end of this, we can leave with some action items. Hopefully this is not just an informative webinar, but also we get some golden nuggets that we can take back to our plants, our facilities, and actually drive some change. And then lastly, as I mentioned, if you got any questions, anything comes up top of mind, drop it into our chat, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. We got a jam-packed agenda, so I'm going to jump right in. All right, real quick, demographics of who we spoke to. And just the breadth and depth of this report, we spoke with, interviewed, surveyed 192 people in maintenance reliability, whether they're managers, technicians, specialists, consultants, exec leaders, or any part of the chain. We spoke to quite a large breadth and depth of different people in our industry. In terms of different industries that were represented in this report: manufacturing, facilities management, food, bev, property management, oil, gas, and probably, I think it was about like 32 other industries that were also represented in this survey. So again, just large breadth and depth of different people that we've spoken to across, even you could see from our chat, different areas of the world, primarily focused in North America. We got a lot of everywhere from East Coast, West Coast, and from the 51st state all the way to Mexico. Sorry, I probably shouldn't use that.
Jim's moving to Greenland. Don't worry.
Jim's a good dude. He gets it.
All right. So now, again, you know who we talked to. You know who we surveyed. I'm going to quickly summarize the key trends for 2025 that we heard from this year's report. The first one, no surprise. Again, this is after talking to 192 different people in maintenance in our industry. The first thing that just came top of mind time and time again: most teams see planned maintenance as critical, but many companies are still struggling to make it a priority. So again, we know that planning our maintenance practice is important, but we are still struggling to actually prioritize it. All right, key trend number 2. Data maturity and maintenance is split. We've got 19% of people and companies using some sort of predictive maintenance technology. And then we've got kind of like 19% of companies, businesses, folks on this like very, very immature stage, and then a lot in the middle. So again, this very it's almost this perfect bell curve of people in this advanced and very low maturity, and a lot of people still trying to figure out how to streamline their data, their technology at their plants and facilities. And then the third thing that really stuck out in this report that we found was just finding skilled talent. It's harder than ever. Many companies aren't doing enough to make careers in maintenance appealing. This is no surprise. When I looked at these, when I looked at and compiled all of the results from the survey, none of these were surprising to me. In many ways, it was a lot of the same. So a big part of what we're going to be doing and talking about today is what are we going to change and how has the trend line been over the past 3 to 5 years? So with that, why don't I jump right into some of our into the big deep dives of each one of these key themes. You all know the one concern that continues to stand out, 55% of maintenance teams plan the majority of the work. We also asked in our survey, do you view it as valuable? 90% of teams say that planned maintenance is highly valuable. Only 55% of teams are actually doing it. So what we noticed is there is this bridge, this gap between recognition and execution, recognizing the importance of planned maintenance and actually executing on it. So then we started digging into why. Why is this happening? What are the barriers to actually executing on this? It was resource constraints, scheduling conflicts, resistance to change. None of this is different. Got lack of leadership resources, lack of leadership support. It's blocking people from being able to plan out their maintenance, even though 90% of teams say that this is incredibly important. And we know, right? In the survey, the folks that we talked to, and I'm sure Bob, Brian, JD, you can all agree that proactive teams with strong plans and tools achieve better reliability, better performance for your plant. If you do this, you see higher reliability, you put a bigger focus on training, you could shift the culture, you could drive measurable results that make a big difference. And so I said, 55% of companies are actually planning out their maintenance. The next question we started to look at is, how has this changed over time? How has this changed over the last 3 years since we've run this survey? I was actually very encouraged by these results and what we heard. 2023, about 47% of companies answered, yes, we plan out a majority of our work. By 2025, now we're over half. So this is good. We're moving in the right positive direction. But we do also have some challenges ahead. A big reason for why we were so low in 2023, we were coming out of COVID, coming into this era of just very, very reactive work where we didn't have people, we had people leaving the workforce at unprecedented rates. And so the numbers dropped quite a bit post-COVID, and it's starting to pick back up. So with that being said, again, I'm the least interesting person here. I want to hear what Bob, Brian, and JD have to say here. Kind of want to ask you guys, how has planned maintenance evolved over the last year? And what, if anything, is actually going to make a big impact to changing the trend line of roughly about just half of planned maintenance? Maybe I'll start with Brian from our team. What do you think, Brian?
So when I think we talked when we were talking earlier about this, is that it's almost 10% increase, right? In 2 years, which is pretty good. And, when I think about planning and preventive maintenance and things like that, the first thing that comes to mind is, what are we doing? Right? Are we doing the right work? Are we creating the correct tasks that are aimed at failure modes? And are we taking that data and implementing defect elimination? At the end of the day, the more right preventive maintenance that we achieve, the more preventive maintenance we'll be able to do. So inherently, by doing the right preventive maintenance, we will be afforded to do more preventive maintenance because we will have less corrective and less reactive work because we're eliminating failure modes and we're conducting defect elimination. So I think as the trend line goes up, as people start to realize that it's more important to do the right work at the right time than to just do work, planned maintenance will continue to grow. And I think that's showing its face. And ultimately, we have help too. We have massive data dumps from CMMS and sensors and things that can help drive us in that direction. But people start to notice, right? We start doing more preventive work, less reactive work, less corrective work. We start to take away preventive maintenance tasks that no longer need to be done because we've corrected a known design flaw. So I think it's just going to keep getting better, and people start to recognize that, and they'll start to invest more in it and see the fruits of their labor.
Bob, JD, what do you guys think?
Sometimes I look at this and you say, because it hasn't really changed that much, and you look at, if you consider how you act at work as being how you would act at home. I mean, if we have planned maintenance at home, if you have a roof leak, are you just going to wait for it, or are you going to make sure you take care of that before it rains and causes problems? A lot of times when you're looking at of course it's the right thing to do planned maintenance, but what gets in the way is there must be too much reaction going on. I have too many failures that are forcing me to break the planned maintenance cycle. So where is my leadership support? I told you in the opening, one of the issues when my father started up that R&D group was way back 50 years ago that they didn't know what reliability was. Nobody could spell it. So where did it fit? I remember the conversation, him talking about where did it fit in the organizational chart. Well, if you're true reliability and you're separating from maintenance, reliability is a proactive tomorrow task, and maintenance is a today task. It's the reactive side. We respond. That's what we do. But there's a lot of people on this watching that I would bet are have been given a reliability title but still do a maintenance function. So so the wall. If I am charged with doing both reactive and proactive, I will get very little proactive work done because my allegiance has to be to keeping the process flowing and to if we're not turning, we're not earning type of thing. So I think a lot of this boils down to the leadership and the support of a proactive activity versus leadership trying to make people better reactors. I want to respond faster. So if that's my mentality, I'm not worried about why I'm getting so good at it. From the proactive standpoint, is I'm conditioned, and the way I survive here is to fix stuff faster. And that will always break your planned maintenance and your PMs and all of that kind of stuff. So I think actions speak louder than words with leadership. You have to have the systems in place that isolate the proactive activities from the reactive activities. Because if you're charged to do both, you'll go insane. And those of you that have to do both, you know what I mean.
I'm going to be a little more maybe controversial or dogmatic about it. I think we don't make the business case as well as we should, or we would all be closer to 90 or 100% because intuitively know it's the right thing to do. I work on both extremes, and on the low extreme with no planners and people trying to get up on the curve, they have just enough information to get to the middle. And the people that are at 20% that are really doing well, they stay there not because of the business numbers, but because it's part of their culture. And when things turn over, they lapse back into the middle. So it's like we get intuitively into this middle zone and we feel good about it, but there's nothing to get us. We're hesitant to give numbers to senior management to get us to the top and stay there because in some way that may even be embarrassing to us, if you will. So we may be our own enemies and kind of get in this halfway or half-ass middle kind of thing about getting a little bit there, but not all the way. So
I think to JD's point on that, because I don't find a lot of people are well versed in making those business cases, but for those of us who have to speak the language of money, we do understand. But when you look at how much money is invested in these ERP, EAM, CMMS type of systems, and what does it do for their profitability? Because I would say a majority of these systems that are implemented fail, and they don't fail because the product is bad. They fail because of poor execution in applying the product. So the amount spent on the product doesn't necessarily mean that it converted to more profitability. And that's all that the management sees is that, I invested this much, I didn't get my return out of it. So it's, I'm not going to do that anymore. So,
CMMS is an enablement. It just enables the processes, right? If fundamentally the processes are wrong, or as I said earlier, we're doing the wrong things, it doesn't matter if we're in the coolest CMMS that can tell us whatever. We're still doing the wrong work. We're still going to continue to have failures because we don't know what work to do. We spent $1 million on a CMMS implementation, but our PMs sound like this, check bearing. Well, we're going to keep having failures, right? And then they're just going to keep going. It's going to keep piling up on that initial investments, the negative side of that initial investment to leadership. That's how they're going to view it.
If your strategy, even if your strategy, I think we're saying the same thing. If your strategy, if your strategies are great and your execution sucks, then it really doesn't matter. So it's all of these tools have the capability to have potential. But the principles don't change, right? I mean, we have to execute the principles, and these tools enable the execution of that. So I think that if you're not held to adhering to the principles, and that gets back to that leadership support for a proactive mentality, it doesn't matter what tool you have.
Absolutely.
I'll say this. I think, and it hurts my own business because I make money making people better at this, but the reality is I sometimes reflect back on and say, if this is not so numbers based and more cultural based, maybe halfway is all we're supposed to be doing. You know, if you believe in macroeconomics, maybe this 80% or 90% planned maintenance achievement, just something to think about. Maybe 55 or 60% is the right number. Just saying. I mean, we've fought it for years. Why are we still fighting it? Maybe that's the right
JD,
number.
I just had a conversation with a potential customer about this. It's like if a lot of people who put those numbers out don't even know the capacity of their initial technicians. They don't even know how much work they can handle. So how are you going to say I can plan 100% of my work when I have no idea how productive my technician is as in respect to hours that I'm paying them to be there? You know?
Yeah, I agree 100%. So we can figure that out. We can't get close to 100%.
Right.
I hate to cut this one short because there's so much good conversation happening, but we do have a lot to get through. We also dropped this as a poll question, so everyone got this question, and we asked what percentage of your team's maintenance work is planned, and it's kind of funny. Like it's literally 50-50 right now. Oh, it just switched. We have 52% saying that it is they plan less than 50%. Okay, it keeps changing right now, but it's interesting. It's about split, and it does beg this good question that JD brought up. What is the right answer? Do we even know? All right, maybe moving on. The second key trend that we heard was this data maturity curve. We heard a little bit. Brian alluded to it a little bit, so did Bob, so did JD, a little bit around what are all of these tools, technologies, what's it all for? Where does it go? How do we use it? Here's what we found from the report. Data maturity and maintenance is split. You got kind of like this large bell curve with people who are using the forefront of technology, AI, and then kind of like this messy middle, and then people who are also just like very, very early in their maturity curve. So again, we see this like very advanced proactive maintenance teams, this messy middle, and then this low maturity of people who are still trying to figure out how to deal and operate with all the technology they've got. This even spread, what I found was it's kind of fragmented. It suggests that a lot of companies are very fragmented. They're driving decisions using data at very different rates. And what we said is there's this opportunity here for better data quality, better data hygiene, better maintenance practices. So I want to ask this group here, hey, how have maintenance teams evolved in their use of data over time? What have you seen? And how have the times changed over the last, let's call it 10 years or so?
Who are you calling on, Ryan?
I'm gonna call on JD. What do you think, JD?
I think it's gotten better. I think there's been such a push in the industry to move toward better metrics, and so I see people grabbing metrics, even if it's simple as PM/CM ratio or something like that. They're trying to collect some data on certain metrics. I'm not sure they're the right ones, but people have evolved to more data to defend or measure themselves. But I do think this, in maintenance organizations, we usually don't have enough people to do the basic work. And so to think we're going to hire somebody to really cleanse the data and double check the data, we're still just happy getting data in the system, whether it's good or bad. So I'll shut up and let the other guys speak a little bit.
Yeah, I think that this is all of these are overlapping with each other when we talk about support and these types of systems. But if you take a system like yours and then somebody puts in pump broke and then it was fixed, that's not a wealth of data that you're going to be able to use for analytics. And I think if it's not tracked and monitored for the quality, I talk a lot about RCA stuff, but if you use a highly capable RCA system and then all you do is put 5 Ys in there with no evidence, I can't stop that if that's what the expectation is and that is acceptable. It's the same with a CMMS, the SAP systems or whatever. Is that if people don't fill in the blanks and there's no negative consequence, then that's I'll continue to do that because I can. So I think that I find it in the RCA side not only for data mining, through work orders, finding out how many times things over a year has been failing and the cost associated with that. If they're not filling that out, it makes it really hard to do. And I guess it could be even worse if they're filling it out with the wrong information. And then when people don't close out properly, they don't close out work orders and everything like that. It's a cascading effect of difficulty. So again, it's not the tool. It's the execution. It's the ability to use these tools and these new technologies properly. And if people aren't doing it, then are we holding them to account for it?
I'm not going to go crazy into data stuff. I'm going to be simple here, and I think it's a very good thing to bring up is when I look at data, a lot of times I think of, is a technician able on the shop floor to review a work order, a past work order that it was on an asset that he's currently working on? Is that available to him? And is that information in that work order able to aid him in troubleshooting, in spare parts, in times it takes to do the work, right? And the reason I say that is because if we inherently are having the correct data put into our work orders from our technicians, we have a strategy around it, it's more likely that the technicians are going to be incentivized to do it correctly in the work order system, which gets quality data because they themselves are going to rely on it to then better their efficiency and their professional work that they're doing on a day-to-day basis on the shop floor. We can talk about AI and all this other stuff, right? Like AI is good. It has an ability to aggregate large sums of data down to manageable amounts for people. As JD alluded, we don't really have anybody. It's a fact. But at least it could take it down to manageable amounts. But I look at it as first thing is, are technicians able to use the system and let it drive their efficiencies and effectiveness in doing their work? And if it is, it's likely that they are providing the data and ultimately being able to leverage that data in the long run.
Yeah. I'm reminded on site today where I'm at is I've got a client that's finally got a lot of good data in and they're very proud of it. They have not done like a 20-year renewal replacement forecast based on that data. Like how long is things going to last? And when do I got to do the rebuilds? And that's been my historical way to give a solution to test the data. Because when you start even building a simple spreadsheet model of what needs to be renewed or replaced when and how much is it worth, you get into using the data, not just looking at your database to see if it's populated. And that to me is one of the tests of how good is the quality, because you get in there and you say, this thing couldn't have been built in 1960 and still running. Something's wrong with the data. And so you really got to use the data to know if it's quality or not somehow. So
what I hear from this is it's really about, it kind of starts with one, capture of data. Two, accessibility of data. Three is quality of data. And then what I hear as well from this panel is really about how do we use it. And what I heard was, let's call it like quantity, accessibility, quality. I feel like all of these three pieces have gotten a lot better over time. Companies are using more data at their fingertips, which is good because of accessibility, technology. But it does seem like there is still this question around how do we use it? How do we interpret it? How do we aggregate it? And how do we make decisions based off of it?
It would be interesting, Ryan, to see that spread that you had about the use of data being advanced, intermediate, and suboptimal, whatever those categories were, across the various industries that participated in this. It would be interesting to see where the advanced were, and I would venture to guess that they would be in the high hazard industries where it's their regulatory requirements make them do it. In the other industries, that there may not be such rigid regulatory requirements, so therefore, if I don't have to do it, I'm not going to.
Yeah, another thing too, Bob, is organizations a lot of times people within the organization don't have the necessary expertise, understanding, or tools to even do anything with the data. They might be collecting great data. They just don't know what to do with it, right? Or they don't have the skill sets to make those connections and understand how things are happening and what to do about them.
I'll give an example of that from the RCA standpoint of what we do a lot in these organizations is that if you go into SAP, normally when people do RCAs, they hit a trigger for an event that says it was over 100,000 or 250,000 or I hurt somebody or, but those are singular events, and those are handed to you on a silver platter because people with suits show up on those kind of things. But if you went into SAP and you did a query over on a certain piece of equipment or a certain line, a processing line, or just anything, and you did, I want to know on this piece of equipment how many work orders have been issued on this over the past year. And what were the lost production opportunities and the maintenance cost associated with it? Because what you're going to find when you do a query like that is you're going to find all those chronic failures that don't rise to the level of a trigger for a single event, and they're going to cost 10 times more than the sporadic event. But if you don't have
5,000 cuts,
if you don't have the good data to be able to do that query or have somebody who knows how to do those queries, because it's in the system. You just have to get it out. You have to have the wherewithal to get it out.
Shameless plug. Upkeep can also do that.
Yeah. Well, and I want to segue too to what Bob said earlier. These three kind of cut across each other, but we've gotten better with data, and I think Upkeep makes it a lot easier to collect that data. But the next question you're going to talk about, Ryan, the next generation wants good data. Where old guys like me are used to not having data and making it work. I think when we get into recruiting and training and attracting, this is a big thing too, because people want to use the tools to work smarter. So I think we segue into workforce here.
JD, that's because people like us use hammers and duct tape, right?
That's baling wire and duct tape. That's right. Yeah.
I mean, and, maybe this is also a good dovetail into where technology is headed and where our belief here at Upkeep, we think it's going. And if you haven't been looking into AI and some of the newest technologies, this is the prime category for AI, where you have data and you need analysis, insights. This is going to be the key for a big use of AI, I feel like, in our industry. So we've also asked this question, threw up a poll here. We kind of wanted to ask this group that have joined us today, where does your organization currently stand in its data maturity? And it seems like the large majority of folks kind of in this like preventative maintenance early stages, which is not indifferent from what we found in our report as well. So it's just interesting to see just this validation of the report that we ran, and also obviously the people that are here joining us today. All right, we'll keep moving on. So the third big finding that we had in the report was really around hiring challenges. This was the number one thing that we brought up in the 2024 report. Nothing has really changed, but I wanted to have a discussion around something a little bit different. So we know that there's been this growing shortage of hiring people in our industry. But what's happening more and more is companies are leaning towards contractors. They're filling missing roles, and they're trying to, obviously attract and develop new talent, but they are just missing on this. We know that finding skilled talent is harder than ever, and I know that a lot of companies aren't doing enough to make maintenance careers appealing enough for people to come in. What we found was that most companies are reporting difficulty attracting new talent. There's fewer than 5% of folks that we interviewed and surveyed saying that it actually is okay. It's easy. It's easy for us to bring in new talent. 95% of companies have said it's more difficult than ever. We've got this shrinking talent pipeline, and we've got a bunch of these issues. Let's cap it at this missed opportunities in workforce development. There's a lot of different programs that we could be doing that we are missing out on. Some companies are doing this. Some companies are doing apprenticeships, internships, partnerships. Only 1 out of 5 companies are basically saying they're making, at least 1 in 5 companies are reporting that they're not making any effort to attract new talent. And so obviously this begs the question, well, if you're not doing anything to bring in new talent, what are we doing in response to these labor shortages? And the answer has overwhelmingly been, let's turn to contractors. It's hard to hire and promote and grow from within. So instead, we found in our report, in our survey, and people that we've talked to, let's just hire contractors. It's easier. They have deep expertise. They're flexible. We can hire up, hire down. 67% of companies said that they're shifting towards more contractors because it's difficult to find people. It's going to be cheaper just because the cost to train, to develop, and have this tenure is really expensive. So we're just going to move towards contractors. Got more flexibility, more specialized skills. I kind of looked at this over time, over the past 3 years. Again, we've seen a lot of disturbance with COVID, but it's basically remained very high, upwards of 70% over the last 3 years. So the use of contractors has been growing. And I want to ask this group here, obviously, given the hiring challenges, labor shortages, how do you think companies are doing in this reliance on contractors? Is it good? Is it bad? Should we be focusing more on trying to attract and develop new talent within? I'm going to kick it off with Bob. What do you think?
There's a lot to dip in here, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of disparity even amongst us. Is that I'll go old school again, and I think that what we've lost a lot of is loyalty between labor and management. Is that with the erosion of the pension, and me thinking that I was going to, when I started working here, I was going to retire from here. All of that's gone, and everybody bounces now. There's no loyalty to the organization in both ways, and there's no institutionalization of any knowledge. It's very hard to have a reliable workforce, a reliable operation when you don't have a reliable workforce. So I don't know why going to contractors. Do contractors have any more skillful people than the people that I would hire? I don't know, because where are the contractors getting them from? Because it's probably a lot of that is going to be an economic situation to say, I don't have to carry the cost to it, the loaded rate of this employee, because I don't have to give them insurance and I don't have to give them all of these benefits and these things like that, and somebody else manages them. But that may be fine, but you don't have the institutional knowledge of your own organization because you're farming it out. And when you farm it out like that, those people are going to bounce around as well. So I just find it very difficult. A quick story is that I was working with a university that I participate with that takes people from business outside, and they go in and they work with students. And I was in a career development thing over there, and I was really surprised because I'm always the oldest one there. These are all kids that are in the 20 to 22 range, and I'm listening to their aspirations, and I would say half of them want to be influencers and have no idea how to do it. So I don't even know what the hell an influencer is, but they're so removed from wanting to get into any type of occupation that would involve getting your hands dirty or something like that. Even when I talk to my daughter, things like that. So I just the skill is not. I'm not sure that the skill is any better if I go to a contractor. I'm sure the economics are, but again, the people don't have a reason to stay. We're not giving people a reason to stay. And that makes it much more difficult to have reliability of our operation because we don't have that institutional knowledge.
Go ahead, JD.
I was going to say, I agree with almost everything Bob said, but I'll be more blunt in some ways. I think our corporations in recent years have been more willing to put disproportionate amount of money in some aspect of the public relations program, you pick it, than they have in the actual people on the front line doing the maintenance. And so what we've done is we've put it off to these soft things and these external image things and forgotten about we should be putting the time and money into the people that actually create reliability and make the things that we make. And so people are leaving because they don't feel loved, basically. And those contractors, in most cases, are picking them up once they leave our places.
Yeah. And
they're coming right back to work for us. And somehow we think it's okay. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
I'll agree with that and add that, at least in the industries I deal in, that there's a lack of career pathways. I know if you're in the reliability business, is that the only way you're going to make more money, when you top out, you have to go into maintenance. To have a pathway anywhere beyond being the reliability engineer. So if people don't see any pathway to where, how am I going to make more money? How do I escalate over here? Because, it just, there's a lot of organizations I go to, people leave because they hit the top and there was nowhere else to go, so that they left.
Go ahead, Jason.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to answer with a story. When I took over the maintenance department for a large coal facility in Louisiana, my first day there, I showed up at 4:00 in the morning for their shift change. And I knew the roster of how many maintenance technicians were on staff. The room was 3 times full, 3 times more than that full. And after our meeting, I started going through, I said, who are all these other people? And they said, well, they're the contractors, in-house contractors working with the maintenance team, all 24, all different shifts. So basically, the maintenance team was supplemented with all these contractors. I said, why are there so many? And they said, well, they would rather just pay them to do the work because they do the work all the time instead of training and putting the work in to train us and bring us up to speed and buy the tooling that we need and all this stuff. Well, those of you who know me, a week later, they were all fired, every single one of them. All of the contractors. We didn't have contractors anymore. And we took that money and we invested into the local team. The local team wanted to learn. They want to know. Of course, we had some people who didn't, who liked just chilling while the contractors did all the work. But the majority of them did want to learn. And it takes, in my opinion, leadership that is invested in the team, in the business, and in their profession to really want to grow and drive the skill sets of their team. And contractors, while I've used them before for very specific high risk things or very specific skill sets and tooling, we tried to bring as much of that in-house as we possibly could. But you create a lot of adverse situations with your labor force when they want to do the right thing and they want to learn these things, and you're constantly bringing in contractors. Again, I'm not against contractors. They're great. But the investment needs to be in the team. And management, sometimes contractor is an easy button for management to get people off their back, to get the job done, to get the machine back up. It's an easy button, and they don't take the necessary steps to then, shift that training or that understanding to their local team. So that's kind of my thought on it.
We don't seem to invest in wanting to make people want to stay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The one thing I don't want to leave this with too is another observation is this, and we've all experienced it, and it depends on industry, but the level of standards once we start hiring contractors, procurement has a much different standard when they hire contractors for the cheapest price than we actually have in-house to do the work. And back to Brian's point, that is a big gulf in the relationship there at some points, because you just don't get the same performance because that's not what the bid price was to come in and be a contract laborer. So we are losing out in the long term. And I like to look at those procurement offerings when we hire outside contractors for people so that I can know we're getting apples to apples. So.
I mean, even your contractors are rotating, so you're not getting the same people. And when you talk about routes and familiarity with the equipment and where the sensor points are and all that kind of stuff, it's just hard to, like I said, have reliability when you don't have reliability of staff.
Yeah.
All right, lots of great nuggets here. Those are the 3 key findings that we have from our report. But this is like literally just touching surface level. We only had 1 hour here to do a deep dive into the 3 key themes that we heard, 1 around data, 1 around staffing, and 1 around planned maintenance. But we probably have like 30 other key findings that we had from the report we did not have time to get into. But we did put together the whole report. I know that our team is going to be sending it out into the chat here where you can download, read the whole report. But I didn't want to leave it with just, here's all the problems in the industry right now. Instead, I wanted to leave us with a few nuggets of what we can actually do to drive change in our industry, because a lot of the things that we've heard today are similar things we've heard in the past. So we're going to start with planned maintenance. If this is something that is important to you, to your organization, you believe that it's important, you believe that it'll decrease downtime, improve cost, and ultimately make the days, lives, and jobs easier for us. It's all about training. We just talked about investing in our own internal workforce. It's all about improving process, using tools, using technology, and automation. There's a lot of technology out there to help automate all of this. Again, in the effort of leaving this session with things that we can do, folks can do at their plants. Now, I'll start with Brian again. How can organizations overcome barriers, resource constraints, scheduling conflicts to actually drive change, to drive better change, to drive more planned maintenance, knowing that it is important?
I think, again, trying to keep it simple is you have to know what's important. And if you know what's important and you've aligned yourself with your business, your local business, your operation, whatever it is, and you all agree on what's important, they'll be more likely to give you machines or be more open-minded in your planning, your scheduling, because they recognize that you're now working in the best interest of them and the group, right? Hey, operations, let's have a planner meet with you every week, every Monday. Operations meets with the planner so that they can hash out maintenance schedules. So you're bringing people into the process, and you're creating, some form of democracy where people, have a little bit of say other than, hey, I'm here from maintenance. You shut your machine down. I need to do this thing. Like, well, we didn't. What are you talking about? We got to run product today. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, right? So you create the communication, create the avenues, create and bring people into the process, and then a lot of these things start to fall off. But that's the first step. And then you need to make sure that when you make those considerations and you make those agreements, you follow through with them. Because if you don't, then you're going to lose them.
JD, any golden nuggets for our audience to get over this resistance?
2 things. Great people can overcome a lot of process problems. So hire great people. Number 2 is the universal language of senior management is money. If you talk about anything else but money, you're probably going to lose the discussion. So those are the two things I would say.
All right, so there we go. People and money. Bob, any golden nuggets?
If I was someone looking for a job, and my propensity was to be a proactive person as opposed to a great fixer, then I would seek out organizations whose leadership tends towards the reliability side. They have a disciplined reliability effort where I would not be rejected because I want to prevent things and never have the opportunity to. And if I'm a great fixer, then I would go to an organization that thrives on like a first responder type of mentality, and you get your pats on the back for fixing things faster as opposed to getting your pats on your back for preventing something from occurring. Look, just look at that from the standpoint of the glory that when you're a reliable organization, and I'm a reliability guy, then my reward is boredom and insecurity. Because if I'm really reliable, they're gonna let some people go because we're running really well. We don't need this many people.
All right, some great nuggets here on just transitioning the culture from one that's reactive into one that is proactive. All right, the next big theme here was around data maturity, and if you want to, if you want to get over this hump, be on the other side of the bell curve, how do you get there? It's all about prioritization. Start with key metrics, key assets, prioritize, boil the ocean, commit to goals, use technology, and then automation using AI and ML. This is going to be the future. We talked quite a bit today around, where we've started, where we are now, and where the future is going to be. We've got more accessibility. We've got higher quality, higher quantities of data now. How do we use it to make smarter decisions? Again, want to leave with a few actionable insights for all of the audience. Maybe we'll start with Brian. Any advice for organizations at these different maturity levels?
I think an important piece of advice is know where you are, know what your constraints are, and have a vision of where you'd like to be and what is a defining factor or a delta or a bridging whatever from a data standpoint to help get you there. If it's we're doing a lot of planned maintenance, but we're not generating any corrective work. Okay, well, the data we need to pay attention to is do we have the right tasks, right? Are we looking in the right places to find potential failures to generate corrective work? So that's just an example, but know where you are, know what you're capable of, and ultimately have a vision and how can certain types of data based on your goals and vision drive the changes you wish to see in your organization.
All right. JD.
I'll stay with better people, show them the money, and I'll add, you need a good technology tool like you've got at Upkeep that can help the data be entered with mobile devices and conveniently to get that data in there. So those are my three.
Hey, I'm the plug man, JD.
Got to have it with data.
All right, and Bob, any advice?
JD took away my suck-up opportunity.
I'm not paying these guys to just say this.
Mine is going to be very similar to JD's in the sense that leadership education as to the value of the data and the tools that can produce it. I think that when we're on the execution side, we have to be able to know how to make better business cases to convert the benefits of using such technologies to the KPIs, the dashboards of the leadership and into dollars. I think that generally my experience, I don't see a lot of people that are really highly educated or skilled at making business cases, and that's hurting them.
Yeah. All right. And the last one that we talked about today is around talent attraction, retention. We know that this is a problem, and there are actionable things that we can do today. The first one was on generational recruitment. Again, this is universities, internships. These are just programs to get the younger generation of people interested in our industry. There's a lot that we can and should be doing. Because if we don't do this, we've got even bigger problems on our hands. Retention, upskilling, there's this easy button that we've talked about quite a bit today of hiring just pure contractors, but we know that's not going to be the solution for the long term. Prioritize this in-house retention, upskilling your existing workforce. A big part of the survey that we ran was what do you think, what do people think is going to be the most important factor for getting people to stay in their current roles and not just jump into different industries or go into the consulting world? And what we heard, number one, was actually just wage increases. So if it's a big importance, just continuing to monitor wage trends and be competitive. And if your competition, if the alternative is to hire contractors, it's also important to look at how much are you paying your existing team, how much are they getting paid, what relative to, what the alternative option is as well. Want to ask this group again, just again on this train of leaving with actionable tidbits and golden nuggets here. What's one key way companies can make maintenance careers more appealing? Maybe I'll start with Bob. Bob, you first.
Well, I think all communities. The sad part here is that I'm the boomer generation. I'm not going to speak for JD, but I sense that he might be close to it. But for 20 years, we've seen this coming, and we dropped the ball. I mean, everybody knew that the retirements were going to be leaving this huge void. So since we didn't pick it up and we don't have the apprenticeship programs and the organizations anymore, people like the community college systems are picking it up. Here in Virginia, I know we have the Manufacturing Skills Institute, the Virginia Manufacturing Association. All of those have programs now that pick up the pieces of the apprenticeship requirements. And now, I would seek those out in your communities to go ahead and get in and get those certifications, because, like, I know here in Virginia, one of the biggest employers is the shipyards down off the coast of Virginia, and they will go ahead and have their people. They will require certifications from, like, the Manufacturing Skills Institute before they will hire them. So I think that's one way that us as people that want to be employed can go ahead and get the credentials from what's available. And then I would say I'll give a plug for RCA across the board, because RCA just works on undesirable outcomes. I don't care where you work, but have a transferable skill. If you're a really good problem solver, a disciplined problem solver, it doesn't matter where you work. You can work in a hospital, you can work in a bank, you can work at the shipyards, but have that transferable skill, because that's a skill that you can convert to dollars, how much you save, because you're making these failures go away so that you can do more planned maintenance. All right, Bob out.
Brian, what do you think?
So I'm going to harp on the word appealing. I think there's a lot of maintenance careers that people just don't even know about. There's so many jobs, titles, companies, positions, things that they have no idea what it is and what people do. I consider myself an old soul. I'm a wrench turner. That's what I do. And I fell into working in machinery by being a college dropout, right? It didn't work out for me. And I didn't know that there was this whole thing of maintenance and technology and all this that was there. I didn't know about it. I fell into it. But I'm going to say, and harping on the word appealing, is we need to leverage these technologies, social media, the way we can get the jobs out there to know what people do. Everyone here knows that a field service technician can make $200 an hour all day long. People are happy to pay it. And we need to talk about that. We need to talk about the salaries that a plumber make, an electrician's making, a PLC technician, a welder, a fabricator. We need to talk about those things and use the social avenues that we have to drive that conversation, right? You see some influencer, like you said, Bob, on TV or whatever, that's a finite thing. Having a skill is not a finite. It applies to everything in your life, whether you're working or not working. Having a skill is an invaluable thing, and we need to make sure people out there and they see it, and they need to see the money that comes along with it.
All right, JD.
Career path.
Career path. As easy as that.
Career path.
I'm playing devil's advocate, JD. Yep. How do they know even about the job with a good career path?
Just do the career path and you'll open the door for everything.
JD, I feel like you've been very, very consistent along the lines of people, money. All right. I know we are right up on time. We have a few questions in our chat. Yes, this is going to be recorded. This is recorded. We'll also share it out with everyone. But, really the conversation that we had just now was just scratching the surface of the report. Again, we talked to over 192 different people, summarized a ton of really great insights and learnings. We dropped the link to download the entire report in our chat, where you can read the full report. I think it's about 30 pages long. And it's really, really insightful. Again, we just scratched the surface today. I want to thank everyone for joining our webinar today, help us kick off 2025 and summarize the key learnings that we had from just interviewing a bunch of people in our industry. Again, my name is Ryan. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, shoot me an email at ryan@upkeep.com. You can also connect with the three others from our panel, Brian, JD, and also Bob. Thank you to Amissa from the Upkeep team for helping organize all of this. If you had questions that we didn't get to, we'll also follow up with you as well. Just want to say thank you to Bob, Brian, and JD for being on this panel, for spending time with us and going through the 2025 State of Maintenance Report. Thank you, guys, and thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thanks for having us and providing the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.